You are about to listen to the words of Fethullah Gulen, a distinguished Islamic scholar and thinker. In this podcast, you will hear his essay, Poisoning of Spirit.
The spirit constitutes human's deepest otherworldly aspect, open to the heavens. It is like a mysterious wing that helps one remain human while also extending to the realms further beyond this one. Realizing the peak of one's human potential is a divine grace promised when that wing is alive and spiritually alert. Its paralysis, however, means paralysis of our spiritual anatomy, which we briefly refer to as poisoning of spirit. Treating the poisoning of spirit is rather difficult and in some cases nearly impossible, for most of the time one does not feel aches and pains, nor does he or she wish to visit a physician for it. Therefore, such a person is almost like the dead, at least in the heart and spirit. Worst of all, they fail to realize the gravity of the issue. In spite of undergoing deformations in their inner world, the person further degrades their spirit, failing to see the dark end that awaits. One fails to see the true nature of things, for they are being poisoned in spirit and experiencing a blindness of insight. They cannot make sense of what they claim to be seeing. How can they make sense when their system of cognition is paralyzed, spiritual anatomy is broken, reasoning and judgment fail to function? Consequently, their abilities of cognition and discernment incapacitated with the poison, they fail to soundly judge what happens, to tell right from wrong. And as for the antidote to this poison, they see the poison again, and like one attempting to quench thirst with seawater, they burn further as they drink and continue to drink as they burn. Factors that poison a human spirit are too many to count. Even only one of these bears the potential to make one lose their human character. When a few of them are found together, it becomes an incurable disease like arrogance, pride, boastfulness, seeking fame, passion for status, desire for applause and appreciation, ambition for amassing wealth, captivity to the carnal soul and its fancies, weakness for selfish interests, and upstart insolence. Those who are prone to these diseases behave so erratic due to their egotism, ostentation, spoiled behaviors, and arrogance that they drift toward a waterfall of egocentrism. Unless graced with providential help, they will not reach safe shores or convenient ports. Instead, they end up in the whirlpools where Nimrod, the pharaohs, and their likes perished. They fail to foresee and sense the disastrous end when they will be remembered as the accursed ones. Impoverished in thought, poisoned in spirit, and paralyzed in reasoning and judgment, such persons lead a life under the influence of animal pleasures and the drives of carnal desires. Deviants who abandon the feeling of righteousness for worldly pomp. They are blind, deaf, and heartless, who have preferred transient enjoyments to the eternal bliss of the hereafter and good pleasure of God. They are senseless ones who fail to see tomorrow under the impulses of their animal passions. A relevant Quranic verse describes such a person as one enchanted with passionate love for women, children, hoarded treasures of gold and silver, branded horses, and their contemporary counterparts, armored luxury cars, and further worldly pomp and splendor. Under the influence of such mean things, they become unable to see the dizzying enjoyments of the hereafter and the blissful end promised by God. If the viral areas of one's spiritual life are vulnerable to material and carnal desires, such a person's conscience will inevitably perish. This most important dynamic of humankind is meant to flourish with God consciousness and the ensuing awe. But when it is paralyzed, such persons cannot make sense of themselves and cannot understand the immense purpose behind the blessing of being created with the best of stature. They cannot see the dizzying human anatomy as an index of all realms and forms of existence. They cannot correctly determine their place in the universe. They are sometimes even taken by the whirlpool of causality and start humming tunes of naturalism. Sometimes, under the influence of impossible theories, they sing of materialism. And sometimes they take on a guise of religiosity, which is actually in conflict with the spirit of true faith. They outwardly impersonate a believer, which presents a hypocritical form of behavior, and in my opinion, one more dangerous than any other deviation. A poisoned spirit continually goes through interwoven miseries and sufferings. He or she is always restless with apprehensions of losing what they have obtained. With the ambitions of keeping things in their possession and adding more, this person runs from one worldly objective to the next. And from time to time they are delirious with delusions of immortality. When their mind trips over impossibilities, then they begin to wheeze with fear of death. And in almost all of these episodes of thought, or rather delirious processes, they feel surrounded from all sides by multi-layered darkness. The situation of such a person resembles that of an unfortunate one depicted in the Quran. In terms of feelings and thoughts, their state is like veils of darkness covering up an abysmal sea down into its depths, covered up by a billow, above which is a billow, above which is a cloud, veils of darkness piled one upon another, so that when he stretches out his hand, he can hardly see it. This is how they always see the general state of affairs. With successions of grievous nightmares, they feel as if in an abyss of hell. Such a person who poisoned and paralyzed their spirit with vices of worldliness resembles an inexperienced hunter out in the forest. While seeking their praise, they shake with the fear of being prey to others and seek comfort by yelling and shouting. In fact, they are already hunted by their passions and caprices, but are not aware of that. Their doors are shut with respect to metaphysical realms. They neither understand anything from the depths within human nature, nor do they feel the harmonious tunes of billions of galaxies and constellations in space. They extinguish their inner torch with the light of which things become meaningful. The splendid order and poetic beauty of phenomena, the all-encompassing knowledge, overwhelming power, and the manifest divine will underlying all things are meaningless to them. And in this spiral of absences, they find themselves in a cycle of judgment. So by poisoning their soul, they also paralyze their mechanisms of seeing, hearing, and assessing. The Quran depicts such people with its exquisite style as follows. They have hearts with which they do not seek the essence of matters to grasp the truth, and they have eyes with which they do not see, and they have ears with which they do not hear. They are like cattle, following only their instincts, rather even more astray. There have been many people of this type in the past, and so will there be in the future, but there will also be those with lustrous faces who take their physicality under control, who overcome their animal side and become oriented to the life of the heart and spirit. What falls to us is letting our shadow remain behind us, walking on the divine path with sincerity, seeking to gain God's good pleasure and yearning to attain His presence. For it is an unchanging divine principle that when you show your care, you will receive the same. Muhammad Lutfi Effendi voices this fact so beautifully. If you truly love the Lord, do you think He will not love you? If you seek His good pleasure, will He not let you attain it? If your tears turn to a stream, if you cry like Job did, if your heart truly grieves, will He not show any sympathy? May God Almighty bless us with that special blessing as a grace out of His providence.
You have just listened to the words of Fethullah Gulen, brought to life through an AI-generated voice. Known for his teachings on faith, interfaith dialogue, peace, and education, Mr. Gulen also inspired the Hizmet movement, a global initiative that promotes democracy, human rights, equality, and nonviolence. To learn more about Fethullah Gulen and the Hizmet movement, visit fethullahgulen.org.